In a small town called Kentwood, Louisiana, there once lived a little girl with a sparkle in her eyes and music in her soul. Her name was Britney Jean Spears. From the moment she could talk, she was already humming tunes, and by the age of 3, she was dancing around the living room, pretending she was on stage in front of thousands. Her parents, Lynn and Jamie Spears, noticed early on that Britney wasn't like other children. While others played with dolls or chased each other outside, Britney stood in front of the mirror with a hairbrush, singing to her reflection. Her voice was sweet but powerful, and when she moved, she had a rhythm that felt natural, like she was born to perform. Every Sunday, her family would go to church, and Britney would sing in the choir. The whole congregation would stop and listen, amazed by the strength that came from such a small body. Her mother would smile proudly, whispering to friends, "That's my baby." By the time she was 8, Britney had already started to dream bigger. She wanted to be on television, to sing and dance for the world. Her mom decided to take her to Atlanta to audition for the Mickey Mouse Club. Britney walked in nervously, holding her mom's hand, but once she started to perform, something magical happened. The judges' faces lit up. Her voice filled the room, and her confidence shone brighter than the stage lights. Although she was too young at first, the producers told her to come back when she was older. Instead of giving up, Britney took their advice to heart. She worked harder than ever, taking singing lessons, dance classes, and even performing in local talent shows. She would rehearse for hours, often staying up late into the night. Her mom would peek through the door and see Britney spinning and singing, lost in her own world of rhythm and dreams. At 10 years old, Britney's big moment came. She auditioned again, and this time, she made it. She joined the Mickey Mouse Club alongside other future stars like Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling. For Britney, it felt like stepping into a dream. Those early days were filled with laughter, rehearsals, and endless energy. Britney learned discipline, teamwork, and how to handle the pressures of being in the spotlight. She was just a child, but she carried herself like a professional. Yet, deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. When the show ended 2 years later, she returned home to Louisiana. The stage lights dimmed and the applause faded, but her dream didn't. Sitting on her bed one evening, she whispered to herself, "I'm not done yet. The world will know my name one day." And she was right. After the Mickey Mouse Club ended, Britney found herself back in Kentwood, Louisiana. The quiet streets felt different after the rush of studio lights and applause. She missed performing, but she never let that emptiness take her dreams away. Instead, she practiced every single day, singing in her room, dancing in front of the mirror, and imagining herself on stage once again. One day, when she was 16, an opportunity came knocking. A talent agent who remembered Britney from her Mickey Mouse days reached out and suggested she audition for a record label in New York. Britney's mother, Lynn, didn't hesitate. They packed their bags, said goodbye to Kentwood, and took a bus straight to the city that never sleeps. When Britney walked into the recording studio, she looked like any other small-town girl. But when she started to sing, everyone in the room stopped. Her voice was fresh yet powerful, innocent yet emotional. The producers exchanged glances. They had found something special, something the world hadn't heard in a long time. Soon after, Britney signed with Jive Records, and her journey to stardom officially began. Her debut single, "Baby One More Time," was released in 1998, and it changed everything. The moment that song hit the radio, the world went wild. The catchy tune, the unforgettable beat, and that iconic schoolgirl outfit from the music video. Britney instantly became a global sensation. Her face appeared on every magazine cover. Teenagers copied her dance moves, her hairstyle, and her fashion. Music channels played her video on repeat, and her name echoed across continents. Overnight, Britney Spears became the world's newest pop princess. But fame came fast and hard. Interviews, photo shoots, concerts, and rehearsals filled her days and nights. The world loved her, but few saw how much work went into every performance. Britney was only 17, yet she carried the pressure of an entire music empire on her shoulders. Still, she smiled through it all, because deep down, this was her dream coming true. Her debut album sold millions, and her tours were packed with fans screaming her name. With every song, Sometimes, You Drive Me Crazy, and Born to Make You Happy, she grew more confident, more iconic. The world had fallen in love with Britney's energy, her voice, and her sparkle. But behind the glitter and fame, Britney remained that same small-town girl from Louisiana, humble, kind, and grounded. She'd call her family whenever she could, saying, "Mama, can you believe it? They're singing my songs in London." Lynn would laugh softly. "I can believe it, baby. I always knew you were meant for this." As the lights grew brighter and the crowds louder, Britney stood on stage one night after another, arms open wide, eyes sparkling under the spotlight. She had made it. She was living her dream. But little did she know, every dream comes with a price, and hers was just beginning to show. The world adored Britney Spears. Every song she released became a hit, every performance was talked about, and every appearance drew flashing cameras and endless cheers. She was on top of the world, but fame, as dazzling as it seemed, came with heavy shadows. Behind the bright lights and perfect smiles, Britney began to feel the pressure building. She was still just a young woman in her early 20s, yet her life was no longer her own. Every move she made was watched, recorded, and judged. The paparazzi followed her everywhere, from airports to restaurants, even outside her home. The price of fame was losing privacy, and for Britney, that was harder than she ever imagined. Days were filled with rehearsals, interviews, and tours. Nights were short, and rest was rare. Sometimes she'd look out of her hotel window at the city below and whisper, "I just want to be normal for a day." But being normal wasn't possible anymore, not for someone whose face was known all over the world. In public, Britney remained cheerful, dancing with her signature energy and giving her fans everything she had. But in private, she was exhausted. Her schedule was relentless, and the people around her expected perfection. Her managers, producers, and even fans wanted more. More music, more shows, more of her smile. But Britney was human. She needed time to breathe, to live, to simply be. When her second album, Oops, I Did It Again, broke records, everyone called her unstoppable. Yet, behind the scenes, she was struggling to keep up with the image of Britney Spears, the flawless pop princess the world had created. She missed home. She missed quiet mornings in Kentwood. Sometimes she'd call her mother late at night, just to hear a familiar voice. "Mama," she'd say softly, "I feel like everyone wants a piece of me. There's nothing left just for me." Lynn would comfort her, reminding her that she was loved, that she was still Britney, not just the superstar, but the daughter, the sister, the girl who once sang barefoot in their living room. Then came more albums, more tours, and more attention. Her relationships became headlines. Every heartbreak was public, every mistake magnified. She tried to stay strong, but the constant pressure began to weigh her down. The tabloids started painting stories, half-truths and lies, turning her pain into entertainment. Britney, who once brought joy to millions, began to feel trapped inside the very world she had dreamed of entering. Still, she performed with all her heart, determined not to let anyone see her struggle. Her voice carried the same passion, her dances the same fire, but behind her eyes there was a quiet sadness, the kind that only comes when the light you shine begins to burn you inside. It was the beginning of a storm she never expected, one that would change her life forever. By the mid-2000s, Britney Spears was one of the most famous women on earth. But behind the glamour, the pressure that had been building for years finally began to crack her world apart. After years of nonstop touring, interviews, and performances, Britney's body and mind were exhausted. She longed for peace, for a moment of quiet away from the chaos. When she became a mother, she hoped for that peace. Holding her baby boys, Sean and Jaden, was the first time in a long while that she felt real joy again. They became her light in a life that had grown too loud. But even motherhood couldn't shield her from the storm outside. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, to the grocery store, to her car, even when she held her babies in her arms. Every photo, every moment was sold to the world. The tabloids turned her struggles into stories, and the headlines were cruel. They called her unstable, broken, and lost. Few people stopped to ask how she truly felt. Inside, Britney was fighting battles no one could see. The pressure, the exhaustion, the loneliness, it all became too heavy. The world saw flashes of her frustration. The night she shaved her head, the tears in her eyes as cameras swarmed her car. But what they didn't see was a woman crying out for help, trying to take control of her own life after years of being controlled by others. Those who truly loved her, her family, her close friends, watched with worry and heartbreak. They wanted to protect her, but fame made everything complicated. Decisions about her life were suddenly being made by people who didn't know her heart, only her brand. In 2008, everything reached its breaking point. Britney was placed under a conservatorship, meaning that others, including her father, would make legal and financial decisions for her. It was meant to protect her during a difficult time, but for Britney, it felt like another cage. She could perform for the world, but she couldn't make choices for herself. She felt trapped, powerless, and silenced. Still, her spirit refused to die. Deep down, Britney was still that little girl from Louisiana who believed in herself. Even when the world doubted her, she held on to her love for her children, her faith, and her hope for freedom. Sometimes late at night she'd write in her journal, pages filled with dreams, sadness, and strength. "One day," she wrote, "I'll tell my story. One day I'll be free again." The world watched her stumble, but those who looked closely saw something remarkable. She never truly gave up. Even when her world fell apart, Britney's heart kept beating to the rhythm of survival. She had faced the storm. But deep down, she knew, every storm eventually passes. And after the rain, the sun always finds its way back. Years passed, and the world changed, but Britney Spears never left the hearts of her fans. Through the darkness, millions stood by her side, remembering the bright young girl who once sang, "I'm not that innocent." They wanted to see her smile again, free, happy, and in control of her own life. For more than a decade, Britney continued to perform under the conservatorship. She worked hard, releasing albums, doing Las Vegas residencies, and performing for sold-out crowds. To the outside world, she seemed strong and unstoppable. But behind the stage lights, she was still living under rules she didn't choose. Every decision, from her finances to her daily schedule, had to be approved by someone else. It was a strange kind of prison, built not with walls but with contracts and control. Then, in 2019, something began to shift. Fans around the world started the Chuck to Free Britney movement. They marched, held signs, and used their voices to demand her freedom. For the first time, the world began to see what Britney had endured, and people were outraged. They wanted justice for the woman who had given them so much joy. Britney, inspired by the support, found her courage again. In court, she spoke her truth with raw honesty and emotion. She told the world what it was like to live without control over her own life, her own choices, her own future. Her words were powerful, breaking years of silence. "I just want my life back," she said. "I deserve to have a life." The courtroom fell silent. The world listened. And finally, after 13 long years, the judge ended the conservatorship. On November 12, 2021, Britney Spears was free. Truly, finally free. The day the news broke, Britney cried tears of joy. She thanked her fans, her supporters, and everyone who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. "You saved my life," she said, "and now I can finally live it." Since then, Britney has embraced her freedom, living life on her own terms. She dances, laughs, travels, and shares her thoughts openly. For the first time in decades, she makes choices for herself: what to do, where to go, how to live. The world that once broke her now celebrates her strength. Her story is no longer just about fame or music. It's about resilience, about a woman who lost control of her life but found the courage to fight for it back. It's about hope, survival, and the power of never giving up, no matter how dark the world becomes. Today, when Britney smiles, it's real. When she dances, it's for joy, not performance. And when she speaks, it's her voice, unfiltered, unchained, and true. Britney Spears, the little girl from Louisiana, the pop princess who conquered the world, had finally conquered her greatest battle: the fight to be herself.